I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with Squid Game, The Challenge, executive producers John Hay and Stephen Yemoh. Guys, let's talk about adapting the Netflix drama series phenomenon that was Squid Game into a reality competition series. It kind of sounds like it makes sense, but I can imagine it would have been an absolute nightmare to get up off the ground and actually get it working. And it comes across so seamless. So let's just start from the beginning. First of all, where did the idea come from, and how did each of you and your production companies get on board? Let's start with you first, John.
I mean, I think a lot of people had the idea, probably. A lot of us watched it all over the world thinking, what would I do in that situation? And any producer of unscripted saw something that was just totally extraordinary in its, in its success, but also in its vision and its tone. It's very, very rare, isn't it, to have a drama that's centered around a game. And it just immediately prompts the question, what have you played it for real? And also, Director Huang had created this world that was just the most incredible means of sort of testing and revealing character under pressure. And that idea obviously sits a lot of great unscripted as well as drama work. So I think we, along with multiple other producers, probably started thinking about how to do it. Found ourselves in a conversation with Netflix that a lot of other people were having. And fortunately, they liked our take and they liked Studio Lambert's, and they thought it'd be interesting to have us work together.
It's fascinating. And Stephen, are you in the same boat that you just kind of, you guys had the best pitch and you were able to make this work?
I'm not sure about that. I think we, like John says, I just want to echo a lot of what John says. We had an idea that it would make a great potential unscripted show. And I think Netflix had the foresight that, they'd use the strengths that we had as a company and the strengths that they had at the Garden in order to sort of bring us together and try and do this thing which had never been done before. And, fortunately, it was really great, actually. We sort of all had the same sort of aligned vision on how it should look and how it should feel. So the creative process was quite seamless between the two companies, even though we don't work together normally. And we just wanted to try and make something extraordinary. And fortunately, we did.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
worth saying, actually, it was a really, as Stephen says, it was a very happy marriage. I mean, Studio Lambert got the most incredible track record in this field.
Yeah.
And we come to it from a sort of documentary roots originally, and just this sort of something in the combination of those bodies of experience and heritage, but also the shared instincts about the show, I think tried to capture a bit of a different tone and a different take on the genre.
Yeah, I think this show is a real feather in the cap for both Studio Lambert and The Garden. It's something that you guys should be so proud of. Other than the sheer scale of the production, with 456 contestants plus all the crew, I could imagine the biggest challenge here would have been, how do you get the audience to care about these people and have the similar emotional stakes that the drama series had? And that was my first impression, thinking, how are they going to do this? No one's going to get killed here, so who cares? And that immediately went away. John, you recently said that instead of being driven by desperation, your version is they're driven by their dreams. That never really occurred to me, but that's a very powerful motivator, isn't it?
Well, we all talked about that. Look, it's the most obvious question, how does it matter if no one's going to die? And it's the first question that everyone asked. And we all thought, can we flip it? So as you say, it's about opportunity and not need, and dreams rather than desperation. And it turns out that, obviously all credits to Netflix for taking the leap of putting that extraordinary prize on the table and going with the scale of the cast. But once you've done that and you've created an immersive world, it is as strong a driver, it turns out. I mean, that you're right. It's a privilege to be able to start with source material this strong, but it's also creates an enormous expectation. And it's a huge challenge to be able to, Director Huang had written such amazing storylines of, trust, betrayal, friendship, sacrifice. How do you create the conditions where those stories are going to play out without being able to write them? That was our biggest, I suppose that was our biggest creative challenge in the whole thing. We thought of the whole thing all the way through as a sort of giant test of character. Our mantra was, how you play is who you are. And I think a lot of the creative decisions were about creating the conditions for those storylines to play out in that way.
Yeah, Stephen, isn't it true that the pressure really is on, this is a really beloved piece of IP that so many people around the world really love and enjoyed. And so this show comes along, if it doesn't at least meet the audience's expectations in terms of the way it looks and the way it makes us feel, we're out. But that certainly didn't happen. It was such a success and people were really excited about it on social media. How did that make you feel? Did you feel vindicated, relieved? And was there a lot of apprehension when this was being put together?
Yeah, I mean, lots of really great points there. I think for me, what I found really exciting about this project is that whenever we were sort of in the hiring process and sort of looking at who would come and work with us on this show from all the different departments, nobody went, oh my God, no. Everyone went, this is such an amazing opportunity. I want to do this because it was so unique and it hadn't been done before. And the scale, they sort of imagined the scale of it and the size of it and what it could do to sort of the unscripted genre and the reality genre as a whole, and thought, I want to be part of that. And that was really heartening as as execs, we know we've got a team who believe in what we can do here. And so I think what I keep saying to people is that every single person that joined the team and had something to do with it brought their A game to this, because they knew they didn't want to be involved in a flop. I always say, like, we didn't want to make the TV version of Waterworld. Huge budget, big budget, huge expectations, but absolutely flopped. We didn't want to do that. And because we had such special IP as well, we didn't want to let that down, because, if this goes badly, then everyone's going to know you guys. Are you the guys that made that terrible Squid Game program? We didn't want to do that. And so everyone brought their A game and brought their brilliant ideas on how to make the show creatively, but also logistically, because logistically, it's a huge challenge to make a show on this scale. And so I think everybody felt the pressure, but was engaged by the pressure and wanted the pressure to drive them on, and made sure they brought their absolute best to bringing it together as a team.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that too. I mean, it's definitely a doing a handstand in public moment, but like, just to go back to earlier thought in your question, the credit, really huge credit to the design and build team and to the production management team, because just making the world look and feel the same that was a sort of minimum expectation of viewers, but just that was an extraordinary feat in itself. And then once you've done that, because of the size of the cast and because of the material and everything, you're dealing, pretty much every, creative conundrum that comes up is new. As Stephen says, everyone approached it excited rather than sort of put off, but it was still a completely fresh set of challenges to work through.
Because of course it would have been lovely to just pick up all the sets and costumes from the original in Seoul, move it to London, and just here we go. But that, of course, wasn't the case. And so I'm watching, every episode opens with this new game, and some of it was completely breathtaking. I was like, how the hell were they able to put this together? And it looks so authentic and so compelling. But I felt like there was even a slight spin on it, and when you could tell that you're not trying to copy and replicate. You're going in your own direction, of course, but you're trying to at least follow the themes and the look and design and aesthetic of the original. So talk me through what was the most difficult set to design and construct from your perspective.
Oh gosh, it's a good question. I think they all had their own challenges and all had their own different unique quirks and things that you didn't quite think about. I think sort of an obvious one would be the glass bridge. Everyone sort of saw that episode in their series and thought, how can you replicate that? And we spent a lot of time thinking, how are we going to do it to make the people playing feel nervous about being at heights? Yeah. So making it feel authentic to the audience as well, and having that sort of moment when somebody drops through. So the logistics that went in and the planning and then went into that was incredible. I was also like, this doesn't sound like immediately it would be one of those that you really think about, but I was really impressed with what the design team did with the final dinner and recreating that triangular table that looked incredible in the drama. And we remember seeing it for the first time and just blown away that they'd created what was like a film set, basically. And the lighting was gorgeous, and it just had that atmospheric feel of like, this is really close now. These people are in they've got such a chance to win such a life-changing amount of money. And I think the whole look and feel of that really helped make that episode really compelling.
But also some of the things that you wouldn't think would be difficult were really difficult. So for example, the cookie recipe. I mean, we went through so many different versions of the cookie recipe before we could find the one that was fair, consistent, hypoallergenic, all that sort of stuff. I mean, I can't remember, like 14, 15 different goes at that. And then the squibs, the sort of chest packs, that's obviously a technology that usually gets deployed sort of once in a singular shot, with the sort of whole pressure pack hidden. We had to fit 456 players with that tech miniaturized and remote controlled. I mean, that was just an enormous sort of technical challenge. And then, of course, the whole thing had to be tangible and immersive. Because when you're shooting the drama, you're shooting it on sets with actors. They can sort of do things with. I mean, it's still an extraordinary achievement, but it's a different quality of experience. Our people had to be sort of inside it, believing it. And I think there was a moment when I remember being in the gallery when they all walked into the dorm, and you just the look in their eyes, like, I'm really here. Like, they stepped into their screens. That was an incredible moment.
Like throughout the series, I was following various contestants. I like that guy, I like that woman. This is great, and then they would just be gone. The next episode, it wasn't about alliances like in Survivor, or being tricky and lying to your fellow contestants like in The Traitors. This is just like it's a game, and a lot of it is about chance. And I'm still amazed. Spoiler alert, everybody! If you haven't seen the show, go away, come back. But I'm still amazed that May actually won, because she was such an underdog throughout the series. I mean, you can't plan who's going to win this, but you must be thrilled with the way it all panned out at the end with that eventual winner.
Yeah, I think that's.
Come.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think that's the big challenge, that we can't plan this. We have no idea. 456 people turn up to that start line, and we look at more and go, one of you is going to win. We have no idea which one it's going to be. When you make a show with 20 people or 10 people, you have an idea that they might do quite well at this, they might do it like that. But we didn't have that, because the cast was so huge. The nature of the games meant any slight error from their part could mean they're gone. We could have a real amazing character, but if they just moved slightly, we were always like, our favorite people could go in the first 5 seconds of this game, on that red light, green light, and that was terrifying. The nature of it. And it was really terrifying as producers, because all producer wants to be in control, but this show, you had very little control.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely terrifying, and that's why the casting, of course, is so critical. It's just so critical. If you get that wrong, this whole thing goes pear-shaped. And so you cast a really global net for the show. So there was a lot of people from the UK and the US. There was an Aussie in there. I think there was one, maybe two, but I remember there was one in particular who I'd seen on social media. I was always barracking for him. He didn't make it. So I just figured then, it's such an obvious question, but how long did it take to settle on who was going to be in the show? Because as you say, Stephen, each of them could have been the winner, and you didn't want to have some dud who had no backstory taking over the prize, and then you're like, oh, we're stuck with them now. So how hard was that?
Yeah, I mean, that is incredibly hard. Go on, John, sorry.
No, go on, please.
Now, that was incredibly hard, because casting is crucial to any show. I don't care if it's scripted or unscripted, it's crucial to any show, because if you don't have a cast which you enjoy, then you're never going to invest in it as a viewer. So we've, the Garden and Studio Lambert have a really good background in casting shows well, and making sure we get engaging characters. And we just had to scale it all up. We had to scale up the team that was looking for the cast. We had 3 teams that were looking for it, one on the east coast of America, one on the west coast, and one was based in the UK that was sort of doing the UK and the rest of the world. And they had, our casting execs were amazing, and their teams that they led were just pounding through applications and just making sure we had good characters, authentic characters who had a good story, but not necessarily we didn't want to go down that everyone's got a sob story type of route with the show. We wanted to make sure people were interesting, and you don't have to have a sob story to be interesting in unscripted TV. I think we've had many years of that where people sort of exploited that type of thing, and that sort of became what reality TV became about. But we didn't want to do that. We wanted to make interesting people who had hopes, dreams, aspirations, and wanted to have fun with it as well. What a unique experience. And I think that's what made the cast so well and so engaging, that people could see themselves in it. We wanted a really diverse mix of people, so you could sort of see, oh, I'm a little bit like that person, or I've had an experience like that person, and delving into their backstories gave you the opportunity to sort of really bond with them, which was really important. So yeah, casting was crucial to this show, as it was to everyone's show, but we just had to do so much more of it and be confident with our decisions, because we didn't have a lot of time to make them. You had to be confident as producers, go, I think that person could be good if they became a key story in this show.
Wow.
And I think also to pick up on your point, the alliances weren't a guarantee of getting through, but they were a key part of the way that the game played out. I mean, you think about the moment, again, spoiler alert, but the way that the players united against the Glass Bridge game, which is fascinating and also sort of encouraging in a way, sort of a little bit of hope for humanity, that it's supposed to be the war of all against all, and yet this cast that have come from all over the world and are all thrown together are finding common cause and sort of, you know, working as teams at times and against each other at other times. I mean, that's just the whole thing. Our primary interest in it is a sort of the game as a test of human nature, and I think it really paid off in that respect.
You know, the Glass Bridge, I think, episode was probably my favorite, and I loved it how the contestants banded together to work out a strategy as a collective. But I can't remember the contestant's name, the woman who decided not to follow that lead and decided not to go ahead, and whatever she ended up doing, it kind of made her a bit of a villain. And so that then reminded me that you do need heroes and villains in every story. And John, you said it perfectly once, where you said one of the holy grails of unscripted TV is finding a game that reveals people's morality and character. So when you're getting moments like that during production, what are you thinking to yourself? Are you like rubbing your hands together thinking, thank you, this is amazing?
Well, I mean, it's not, I think it's subtler than that, personally. I think it's really interesting talking about that moment on the Glass Bridge, because people have lots of different takes on it. I mean, you might think, for example, that it's Ashley you're talking about, I think, and that she, a lot of people would recognize that moment where the group has made a decision, in quotation marks, but you weren't part of that decision, and you don't feel bound by it. And I think that's a legitimate point of view. I mean, I think what we look for is moments of sort of subtlety and ambiguity where you can sort of read them in different ways. If it's too binary, it's not interesting, and it's not really fair on the people involved. I think what was fascinating about that moment, and the reason it was talked about so much, is you could sympathize with either side of it and see where different people were coming from. And the game test, in a way, sort of revealed all that about all those taking part. Some people thought that Mai's reaction was legitimate. Some people thought it was over the top. It played out in a very interesting sort of human way.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be exactly, it's not binary. And I remember sitting on the couch and my wife was like, "Oh, that's horrible. She's terrible." I'm like, no way, I wouldn't do it. I'd be like, I didn't agree to this and I'm not doing it. So, I mean, to get that kind of nuance in a reality show doesn't happen very often. And so it brings me to this. I recently played a round of the Squid Game challenge in LA. They had that pop-up thing, and it reminded me that it's as ingenious as the original drama was, this aesthetic that director Huang has created, that you guys have recreated and embellished and amplified, is so iconic these days. I just wonder if you're going, when season 2 happens, what's the plan? Will you just come up with something completely new?
Well, I mean, we could tell you, but we'd have to kill you.
You'd have to kill me.
But we're in the middle of figuring some of that out at the moment. But it's very exciting to have a chance to go again. We obviously can't reveal anything about it until we do. But I mean, I'll tell you one thing that's true across both seasons without giving anything away. One of the great challenges of this is that we knew that viewers would turn up expecting to see the greatest hits.
Yeah.
But we also knew that one of the reasons we'd all watch Squid Game is you never know what's going to happen next. So just that challenge of delivering both sort of familiarity and surprise at the same time was one of the sort of principal creative conundrums of the whole thing. And obviously we're going to face it again in season 2.
There's so much to look forward to. And from your perspective, Stephen, I'll go to you first. And this is my final question. You're not casting directors, and I know Netflix has a lot of say in who is eventually a contestant on the show. But from your perspective, what makes a really great reality show contestant? I'm going to be taking notes because I want to apply. So you tell us, what do you think?
I think somebody who's authentic is a really big part of being a good reality contestant, and authenticity comes in many different types of ways. And I think authentic in the sort of they bring themselves to the game. I think once you're in a reality show, you don't try and be somebody else. You don't try and be that person that you saw in the previous series of Survivor or the previous series of Love Island or any other show. You know, you just don't go, I'm just like, this is me. Reality shows, what I love them is that they show individuals, and actors are brilliant. But actors don't do reality shows for a reason, because we want to see real people do things, right? So I think being as real as you possibly can and embracing what you're going into as well. I think some reality shows, they have contestants on them that don't fully get involved and take the leap. And I think the best shows really do when people sort of go, I'm in this now, I'm going to throw myself into it and try and be as much as I can. Don't necessarily try and break it. try and break the game. And like was great on Glassberries is that they banded together. I didn't try and break the game. They still knew that people had to
Yeah.
be sacrificed in order to make that leap across the bridge. So don't try and break the game. Just try and be in it and enjoy it. Like, what an opportunity to be on any show is a great opportunity. And to be on a show like this as well, like I always say, like, these people, why it mattered so much is that not many opportunities in your life are you going to have a 1 in 4, 5, 6 chance of being a multimillionaire. That is actually quite a small percentage if you look at it.
Yeah.
So so if you have an opportunity, just take it with both hands, enjoy it, and, you know, be yourself.
And final word for you, John.
Well, I mean, I couldn't have put it better than that. I'll just add that we make a show here in the UK called 24 Hours in A&E. We made over 300 episodes of it now, and in that show, it tells the stories of the people who come through the ER unit of a hospital in a single day. So there's no casting, but they're always fascinating. And I suppose the lesson from that for me is that pretty much everyone has a story worth telling and an interesting life if you just think to ask the right questions, and that's what we try to do with this show.
Oh, mate, you're making me so excited for a potential season 2. But in the meantime, Squid Game The Challenge is still streaming on Netflix. Go and watch it again, everybody. And thank you both for your insight and your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah.